Welcome to Keith Knight, Don't Tread on Anyone. What is worse, saying America deserved 9/11 or saying Japan deserved Hiroshima and Nagasaki and Vietnam bombings were justified and the bombings of Afghanistan and Iraq are justified? I'm not really sure if this is that crazy of a statement, but of course it's wrong because those 3,000 people were totally innocent. They were not initiating aggression against peaceful people. So I asked the Mark Dice followers, if Group X invaded America, would Americans care if someone in the group X invading army lost an eye? I don't think so. So Donna Dooley Glenn asks me, not because this is some important person, but this does represent sort of the ideas. You are an idiot. Why don't you go join the terrorists? I don't join the terrorists because a terrorist initiates violence against peaceful people, something I'm against regardless of what country they're from or what Congress group gives them the orders. America will be glad to take care of you. And by that I think she means the American government will shoot me or kill me or sabotage me, when in reality, you could, if you are a Saudi terrorist, they'll give you billions of dollars, not only in cash, but in arms. Or if you're an Al-Qaeda in Syria or Libya fighting against Gaddafi or Assad, then they'll fully support you. Or if you're Saddam fighting the Iranians in the 80s, they'll totally support you. Or if you're the Mujahideen, then they'll totally support those terrorists. Or if you're Ho Chi Minh, etc. So we, the government, are always the good guys on the right side and the terrorists are on the polar opposite side. This is a totally ignorant idea. Only here. So when someone says only here, that's a pretty falsifiable statement. Can you spew? Oh, see, I'm just spewing. I'm not using reason, logic. I'm not attempting to hold people to consistent moral principles. I'm just spewing. Your disdain for America. Honey, my disdain for the murdering American government does not represent how I feel about 330 million Americans today and the history of a country founded on declaring its independence from illegitimate lawmakers. And still go about your day. And it's falsifiable because that means anyone in any country who has ever spewed disdain for their country has not been able to go about their day. Your type make me sick. So the question is, well, first, of course, as I mentioned earlier, that was my response. The U.S. military, just as the British Redcoats, it's important that very few people, I think, recognize the British Army was the government in America. That was not an invading army. 1776 was a violent overthrow of a country's own government because they just held them to the same standards they'd hold everyone else. So the question is, do libertarians or people who criticize the government or the military even, going that far, do they hate the country? No. Criticizing an immoral group within a geographical area does not tell you anything about how a person feels about all the people within that geographic area currently, in the past, or in the future. So libertarianism, just to narrow it down, the basic premise is that it's illegitimate to engage in aggression against non-aggressors. So when they say freedom, they mean the freedom to do whatever you want so long as you don't initiate violence against peaceful people, infringing on their freedom. In other words, consent is the root of morality. It differentiates sex from rape, a job from slavery. It differentiates trade from theft. So that is the basis of consent. Is this a philosophy that hates America? Well, I also want to get into anarchism. To be an anarchist only means that you believe that aggression is not justified and that states necessarily employ aggression. That's what makes the state unique. So the question is, do libertarians hate America if they are against the state employing aggression against not only Americans, but people who came out of their mother's womb on other geographical areas, non-Americans? So if you support the state, you advocate initiating violence against peaceful people by definition. The legislation is not just some policy a group has. That is, do what we say, or we will put you in a cage for not obeying. and therefore that states and the aggression they necessarily employ are unjustified, just as it would be for any other group. The anarchist just says, hey, government, I hold you to the same standards I hold any other person or group of persons. It's quite simple, really. It's an ethical view, so no surprise it confuses utilitarians accordingly. Anyone who is not an anarchist must maintain either aggression is justified, violence, initiating force against peaceful people is justified on an institutionalized scale, or states, in particular minimal states, do not necessarily employ aggression, which is ridiculous. That's what makes them a state in the first place. And if you don't think so, just imagine if any other person, group, or organization did what the state does on a daily basis. So the question is, who hates America, statists or libertarian anarchists? The reason a statist, you could say, hates America, or hates any country they're currently in, is because they advocate initiating violence against peaceful people. Can you really love someone or something or some group of people if you advocate their money be taken without their consent and they be put in a cage if they don't abide by the rules made up by psychopathic, pedophile, cover-up congressmen? Of course not. The anarchist is the one who says, I love America so much, and the world, because they're consistent, they don't just hold Americans to certain standards. They say, I love people so much, I'm not willing to initiate violence against them. So this is a total false claim that, one, anyone who criticizes the government and its actions are criticizing the country in and of itself. But of course, that's what the government wants you to think. They want you to think you're an extension of the state, which is no more true than a parasite is an extension of, any productive capacity. So, in short, the anarchist is the one who loves humanity by recognizing they have the right to be free unless they initiate violence against others, and those people have a right to defend themselves against the aggressors. The statist cannot be said to love America. You cannot genuinely love someone. Just think in your personal life, because thinking of the state, it's a big scale, it's hard to determine. If I advocate initiating violence against you, and then I said, I love you, if you don't abide by what me and my friends tell you to do, if you don't force the things we want you to fund, you should be put in a cage. If you ingest things we tell you not to ingest, you should be put in a cage and shot if you resist and try to escape. Can you really be said to love someone? So not only is the claim illegitimate, it doesn't apply to libertarians, it actually applies to the statist, the very person making the claim. Thank you for watching Keith Knight, Don't Tread on Anyone.